Douglas here. I prepare Honda Postie bikes, so that's the Honda CT110 for a form of racing. There's a supermoto class in Western Australia, and I enjoy putting the bikes together and seeing them on track. Today's project is to increase the breather size. Part of our rules are that we aren't allowed to touch any of the internals of the engine. It must be stock standard inside. We can change carburation, ignition system, exhaust, but we can't modify the cases or the internals of the engine. Now, the Honda CT110 has a rather small crankcase breather on it, which is fine when they're spinning at their normal 4,000 to 6,000 RPM that you might use as a postie delivering mail. In fact, some of the earlier ones had a rev limiter set in the CDI and they wouldn't go above 4,000. Well, we're spinning them up in the order of 10,000 RPM, and the crankcase just can't breathe with the tiny little breather. So I've fashioned a style of breather which is simply a dipstick oil filler with the dipstick removed. I've bored it out through the middle, and we have quite a large breather. Well, large compared to the standard breather. This works quite well, but I want to have a go at making one out of aluminium. So I have this length of aluminium bar sitting around. So today's mission is to stick this in the lathe and see what we can do. Will it be a success or will it be a failure? The first thing I'm going to do is the length of the thread where it screws into the crankcase is 16 mils, and it's a 20 mil by 2.5 pitch. So the first job is to mount up the bit of bar in the lathe and turn down a section approximately 16 mils long and just under 20 mils. So I'll set it up in the lathe and we'll be back soon. I've set the bar up in the lathe. I've marked my 16.5 mils, thereabouts, very rough, and we're just going to turn this down until we get to just under 19 mils. I have noticed that the bar is not straight. It has a bit of a woof in it, so I'm not going to use a centre support on this end. I have centre drilled it, but all I'm interested in is that the piece that I turn is uniform all the way around. So I know what I mean, so let's get started. Now this may be a little noisy because I've got you sitting on top of the tailstock. feed screw to take these first few turns. I'm just moving the carriage along. When I get the piece trued up, I will take some better cuts with using the feed screw. We actually look like we've got it all the way. Okay, it's not all that far out around. It looks worse when it's in the chuck and I can see the bit of wobble on it, but it's good. So we're starting off with something that's 24mm in diameter, and we want to take it down to just under 20mm. So I might bring you back when I've got close to that dimension. Okay, so it's turned down to just under 20mm, and I've put a very slight chamfer with a file on the edge because I'm going to cut the thread using a die held against the tailstock. So I'll set that up and I'll bring you back for the cutting. Right, we're set up. I've got the die held in place by the tailstock, and what I will do is I'll manually turn the chuck on the lathe and slowly increase pressure on the dial using the tailstock feed. So let me set you up at the other end of the lathe and we'll have a go at cutting this thread. Okay, just a little bit of WD-40 to help the cutting, and I'm not an expert. I'm home taught, but and I'm sorry about my hand being in the way as we get these first few threads to start. The tailstock applies even pressure to the die so that it makes sure that it starts square. That's where you realise how big my hands are when they block the lens, don't you? And just slowly does it. I think the camera's dropped a little. I might bring you back when I've finished the thread, because it must be pretty boring just watching me turn a lathe by hand. So the thread's nicely cut now. We'll move on to the next step. I need to lightly skim this surface here. Then I need to turn down a hose clamp fitting on here and bore a hole through the middle to the largest size that I can safely do. So I'll set it up in the lathe and we'll turn down the other parts. Okay, we're now set up in the chuck. I've roughed down this part of it, not particularly smooth. I don't want to take this down too low because there's a O-ring that seals against here. It goes on the end here above the thread and seals on the case. So we'll leave that a little bit rough and pitted. But now I'm going to centre drill it. I've got the centre drill bit in the tailstock, and we'll move the tailstock into nearly at the workpiece, tighten it in place, and okay, we've centre drilled it now. Now I'm not working to any particular dimensions. On the plastic piece that I had, trying to get it into the camera. Okay, the plastic piece was quite long. There's no reason why this one can't be as long. So really from the mating face I could come all the way back to the chuck, but I'm not. I'm probably only going to come back to about here, which will be ample to get a hose onto it. So let me set it up in the lathe and we'll be back. Now I'm going to bore a 10mm hole through the middle here, so the hose fitting can safely be turned down to a 50mm OD here, and so that's what I'm going to achieve. I'm going to turn from this point here through to about there, down to 15mm, and then I'll come in and make a little barb on the last little bit, so that the hose clamp can clamp this side of the barb and it can't slide off. So I'll start it up, I'll do a little bit, but I won't bore you with the whole process, and I'll come back when we've nearly got it finished, but here's a little bit of it anyway. Because I've got such a long hangout from the chuck, I'm only taking very small cuts. I don't want to put too much pressure on the work. I haven't got a centre in, even though I've centre drilled it. I'm choosing to cheat and do it this way. Alright, well that's enough. I'll bring you back when I've got it nearly down to size. Okay, we've turned it down to 15mm here, and I've got one half of the barb. One half of the barb was actually made by, you can hardly see, but the tool's not straight on. I was actually cutting with the back edge of the tool, and it's created this taper up here. So now I will turn the tool and come in from the other way and create the other half of the taper, and then part this off, and it's just about done. I'm now set up to bore through the centre. I'm going through with 8mm to start with, and then I might sneak it up a little bit larger, but I just want to make sure that I can get all the way through. So I'll be back with you when I finish this. The nearly finished item. The only thing that I'm going to do is this one was made from the original plug. It had a dipstick on it and it was cut off, and it was bored through and this put in. Because you need to get it fairly firm, I'm actually going to put two small holes, probably about 6mm holes in each side, and I'll build a C spanner for just nipping it up. My 10mm bit has gone missing out of the set, so it's only through with 8mm at this stage. I'll come back and put the 10mm through. I'm running out of battery in the camera, so I'll come back and finish this video a little later.